Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire have had injuries at the end of the season with United, so they needed a little bit more work with our medical team. But I think they're both hugely committed to trying to be fit for the tournament, and they realise that every day is important. Now we get a chance to see exactly where they are, and that's the key. At this time of the season we get information from the clubs, but until you see the players in front of you, medics can get their hands on them and we can see them on the grass, then you have a much clearer picture.
I'm sure they'd all swap a few days of holiday for the chance to play at the Euros, no doubt. And there's a few new faces as well. We've got Quansah, Jones and Wharton. What about their game kind of piqued your interest, and have you had the chance to speak to them yet?
Yeah, so I have picked up with a couple of the boys. Slightly different journeys really over the last couple of years. I mean, Curtis, we watched all last summer with our under-21s, had very good spells during this season, then missed spells with an injury, very unfortunate red card, and at the end of the season just dropped out of Liverpool's team. But we saw enough through the season to be excited about what he might be able to do and what he can bring to the group. Adam Wharton, transfer in the middle of the season, really adapted to life in the Premier League well, very composed with the ball. Palace obviously finished the season well, so I think that all came together for that group of players and the coach in nice time. He's only just sort of got into our under-21 group, but we've seen enough to suggest that he's a player we'd like to see more of and find out a bit more about. What I've said to these boys is that we're only taking 26, but for some of these younger ones especially, they might be ready now. It might be that this is brilliant experience for them for the future, and I can't give anybody any guarantees on that because we don't quite know all the other injury situations and how many we might need in each position, and we'll be piecing all of that together in the next week. And the other player is Jarrell, who had a super season with Liverpool. I mean, you've only got to see the games that his manager picked him for. He was in the team. A couple of other high-profile players weren't in that position, so that was a sign of how well Jurgen thought he was doing. He again has had an amazing transition this season from a loan spell further down the leagues last year. Adapted to life in the Premier League really well, some great attributes as a centre-back. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing him and building on what we saw last time with Jared Branthwaite as well.
You can't mention these young, super talented players and not mention Cobbie. Obviously, huge game, huge performance in the FA Cup final. It must excite you a little bit having all this young talent to pick from.
The curious thing about young talent is how will they cope under pressure. You can see technical ability, everybody can see that, but then it's about how tactically aware, how mature, ability to cope in big matches. When you're playing for a club like Manchester United, you're always under the spotlight. So he's shown that with them, with us in March. We've never been afraid to put young players in. If players are good enough, then we're not so concerned about their age. It's helpful to have more evidence when you're making decisions on players. So Cobbie's had an amazing season, really adjusted well. Fabulous for him to finish the season with a goal and a trophy at the end of it.
Next stop, St James's Park. It must be nice to be able to take the boys and play in front of a very passionate crowd. How nice is it to be able to go and play up at St James's Park?
Bringing the team on the road, I mean, that's something that we've enjoyed doing. Of course, to play at Wembley for your country is very, very special, so you never want to lose that aspect, which we've got a nice contrast this week of being able to do both things. But we're England, we represent everybody. I've obviously played in the Northeast and I know how passionate people here are about their football. Newcastle with the last couple of seasons they've had and the momentum behind them, but there'll be a lot of Sunderland fans up there, Middlesbrough fans. It'll be a brilliant night. Really looking forward to that. In terms of the opposition, when we were looking for types of opponent, in Bosnia was still in the playoff phase, so we were conscious it might be a team that we could come up against. But then when they went out, we were able to sort of confirm, okay, there's no fixture clash later in the tournament. We had a level of opponent in March that were ranked in the top 5. We didn't necessarily want that for this camp because the demands here are as much about getting the right physical aspect to the game, as well as trying one or two things and getting some combinations going and getting the players on the pitch a little bit more cohesion, really.
And then the final stop in the final warm-up game before we head out to Germany, Iceland, back in the usual stomping ground of Wembley. Another tough challenge?
The opponent is always tricky, but I think for these two games our focus is very much on what we're doing. I mentioned the time on the training pitch. By the second game we'll have a few more of the boys that were involved in the cup final. Some of them needed a bit longer in terms of a break than others. I don't think we'll involve Jude in that game. He's obviously got the Champions League final this weekend, which is massive for him. So he'll be playing for longer than everybody else, and it would be too quickly to put him into that game. So yeah, again a chance for people at Wembley to send the team off. We'll be, by then hopefully be really clear in our mind on our 26 and where we're heading with everything. Not
long now until you have to whittle down those 33 players to 26. How hard will that be for you?
Extremely difficult. It was obviously very difficult to leave players out of this 33, and of course there are some younger players that are coming with slightly different expectations perhaps into this camp, but there are going to be some difficult calls to make. We're hoping that not too many of those calls are decided by injury, and we've got the strongest possible squad to pick from. I think I said when I very first took over as manager, for me it wasn't about getting the job, it's what you do when you're in the job. The desire to push the team now to win this tournament is huge.